mystical literature, terms like the unknown, unknowing, recur very much. For example, in Christian mysticism, you can find some texts that say that God is surrounded by a cloud of unknowing. And if you want to get a direct contact with God, you have to enter this cloud of unknowing and forget everything you know. To remain naked, with a naked desire of this contact. In fact, for example, a scholar who studied deeply mysticism, like Fordham, speaks about a forgetting model that is recurrent in mysticism. Meister Eckhart speaks as a term that is Vergessenheit. That means the state of forgetfulness. Just to forget all what you know. And if you go to the East, for example, you can find that in Indian late Mahayana Buddhism, someone like Kamalashila speaks about the fact that the peak of meditative experience is called asmurti. And in Sanskrit, this term is made by the privative prefix a, that means without, and the word smurti, that means both memory and attention. So the peak of meditative experience is a state without memory and without attention. In China, an equivalent is the concept of Wu Nian, Wu Ming in Taoism and in Chan Buddhism. That means no mind, to lose your mind with all its contents. And there is a saying in Taoism as follows: the scholar learns something every day. The man of Tao forgets something every day until he reaches not doing. So, if you read these texts about the unknown, you could easily have the idea that this unknown is something far away, is a goal that you have to reach along a path, a gradual path in time that brings from the known to the unknown. So the unknown is just a goal, and you have to do a lot of meditation, a lot of practice in order to reach this unknowing condition. And about this, for me at least, there are good and bad news. The good news are that we have no need to reach the unknown, because the unknown is already here and we are just in the middle of it. And it touches us just in the deep intimacy of our heart. These are the good news. The bad news are that we are terrified by the unknown. And so we do our best in order to convince us that it is far away. How does the unknown show itself in our everyday life? in many ways. But maybe as a short story can introduce in one of the most frequent ways. There is the story of a Rabi who, for more than 30 years, every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, would cross the village square in order to to enter the synagogue. Every day. Regardless the good or bad weather, regardless the good or bad health, every day for more than 30 years, this man, this Rabbi, would cross the square until the synagogue. One day, while he was crossing the square, from the other side was coming a Cossack. This Cossack was maybe also the marshal of the village, and he was very different from the Rabbi. He was, the night before, he got drunk, then he quarreled with his wife, and he, without dreaming, without sleeping, he got out of his house in a very bad temper. And nonetheless, since they were only 2 people at the time in the morning in the square, this Cossack decided to be kind, to be friendly with this old man, whom he had never spoken to. 2 different times of the day, the night, and so when they were near, the Cossack said, "Good morning. Where are you going?" The Rabbi said, "Don't know." At that point, the Cossack got exploded in anger because he said, "You are making joke on me. Everyone knows that in the last 30 years, every day you went to the synagogue, and now you say that you don't know. Now come with me." And he grabbed him by the scruff of his neck, and they marched down to the local prison, and he threw him into the cell. And while he was closing the door and looking through the bars, he saw this old man standing at the center of the cell, who was looking at him with a smile and said, "You see, you don't know." So this can introduce in a way that the unknown manifests itself in our everyday life. And it is the fact that life is unpredictable, is really unpredictable. Every one of us knows that maybe tomorrow, maybe in 10 years or never, a car accident, and we are blind for the rest of our life, or are paralyzed, or we lose our beloved. Anything can happen. And so, this unpredictable feature of life is a source of an anxiety that never leaves us on the background of our everyday life. And so we often employ strategies in order to deal with this anxiety and with the unpredictable feature of life. Many strategies. For example, one of the most widespread is repression. We repress this anxiety. Repression means that anxiety is not cancelled, is not dissolved. Simply we pretend it is not here. And so this anxiety becomes unconscious, and unconsciously is dangerous. Can become a sort of neurotic attitudes of our mind. It can become also a physical disease. So it's not a very clever strategy, but we use a lot. We distract ourselves, involving ourselves in everyday actions and business, and so we try to forget in another way, to forget, the forgetting model, our anxiety. Another strategy that is interesting is that we try to make life more predictable, usually through habits. You know, if you do the same things every day at the same time, and so on that time of that day you have your coffee, at that time of that day you make love, at that time of the day you see your favorite TV show, and if you fill your day of habits that are recurrent patterns of actions, you have the illusion to know what will happen. Of course, it's just an illusion, because anything can happen in your life that blows away all your habits. But you got a good illusion that maybe you know that your day will be as follows, this. And this, of course, is another not unskillful strategy, because in order to avoid the overall anxiety about the general unpredictable feature of life, you begin to be worried about each of your habits, because each of your habits is always in danger. Maybe you have no time to take your coffee in the afternoon at that time, and maybe that you lose the coffee, and then you get upset. And so you worry because of that. And so the big anxiety becomes many fragments of minor anxieties that are a continuous disease of your day. There is another way that you can face really how the unknown is present in your life, especially when when you are in the second half of your life, and this is the thought of death. I don't want to get deeply in this, but just to mention some aspects of it. No one knows what happens when one dies, because no one, of course, came back after and told us. So death is really a powerful symbol of what is unknowable. And there is something interesting in this, because when we are afraid, we are always afraid of something. If we don't know anything whatever about death, so it's difficult to be afraid of death. But it seems that we are afraid of death. Why? There are two answers for me, two main answers. One is the one that gave Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti said, I try to say in my English, we have not afraid so much of meeting the unknown as of losing what we know. And since, of course, death is losing everything you know, that is a major source of fear. The second reason is that if death is totally unknowable and becomes really a symbol, a powerful symbol of the unknown, it becomes the perfect blank screen where mind can project our worst terrifying fantasies that come from our early childhood and that are mainly unconscious. We don't know anything, and so we project what terrifies us as a child. Like, for example, being left alone in darkness. And for some people, death is being closed in a dark room alone forever. This is the fantasy. And in order to just cancel these fantasies, our mind begins to tell us many different stories about what happens after death. Very different stories. Can be the story of heaven and hell, or the story of karma and rebirth, or the story about phantoms and spirits, or even the story that all ends and our atoms just go fragmented in the rest of the universe. But it's not important so much what story you believe, as the fact that you need to believe to some story, because it is very rare to find someone who, speaking about death, says, I really don't know, full stop, without stories, without conclusions, just wide open to the mystery. That is quite difficult. Usually, as I said, we have a lot of strategies in order to deal with this unpredictable or unknown feature of life. And all these strategies don't work very well. Why? And if you inquire a little bit deeper, you'll find that all these strategies have an underlying common pattern. And this pattern is that here I am, and in front of me there is life with the unknown. And I have to come to terms with life. That is the duality between subject and object. That is the idea that I am separate from life, and I have to do something to life in order to solve this problem of the unknown. And so we have to do something to life. Maybe we have to fight against it, or we have to flight away from it, or we must change it, or we must control it, or we must compromise with it, or even we must let go of it, or accept it, because even those are strategies that imply that I have to do something to life because we are separate. And so we begin to treat life as a problem. while life is not a problem, it's a mystery. And there is a big difference between them. A problem is there in front of me, is my partner who is always criticizing me, is my bank that doesn't want to give me back my money, is how to find time to have a holiday. That is the problem in front of me. Here I am, and so when there is a problem, I feel uneasy, I feel upset. And so I have to apply a technique to the problem in order to solve it. And when a problem is solved, it ceases to be a problem, and I finally feel at ease. A mystery is not in front of me because I am a part of it. When you speak about life, when you think about some questions like who am I or what is reality, of course, what you are inquiring into includes you, includes the one who is inquiring, includes the inquiry itself. We are inside the mystery, not only in the middle of mystery, but the mystery is at the heart of our being. And so we cannot solve a mystery. We can only experience it. And when we go, we plunge deeply into a mystery, the mystery doesn't become less mysterious. When you go in touch with the mystery, instead of feeling uneasy, like with a problem, a strange fullness begins to unfold. A very strange fullness that is made of wonder. Now, so now we can understand why our strategies in order to face the unknown in our life are doomed to fail, because they are founded on an illusion that I am separate from life, of course. And so we have to see from a totally different perspective all the questions. We have to see that life and I are one since the beginning. And so, of course, those strategies don't work. And so maybe we meet in this new perspective. Maybe we meet also a communication that comes from non-duality. And this communication maybe says, oh, but really, who am I? If I'm not separate from life, who am I? And this question is very interesting because, of course, you cannot give an answer out there. If you ask, who am I, would you be satisfied to answer name and surname, or your nationality, or your work, or your sex, gender? No, there are no answers as objects. When you ask, who am I, the answer, in brackets, the answer is from where this question is arising. What is the source of the question, who am I? The questions bring us to look outside for an answer. This question needs to bring us to its very source. And when one maybe begins to inquire into it, begins to discover that maybe I am awareness. That is an answer that people usually give. I am consciousness. I definitely am the one who observes everything, you know? And we also discover another strange thing, that usually when we say I am consciousness, we also believe that this consciousness is identified with this body and this mind only. We usually think that I am consciousness. This consciousness is inside the mind is inside the body, and I am this consciousness with mind body. Then there is the outside world, and I am not that. And so we discovered that we live according to this perspective. I am a consciousness identified with the body and the mind, and I'm not the world outside. But if we have some taste of what is our direct experience of now, if we just look now at our direct experience, we find awareness. We are awareness, okay? But if we don't just forget for a while what our thoughts say about reality and just check our direct experience, we find a very strange thing, that this experience, and when I say experience, I say reality, no aspect of reality can appear outside our experience. They are just two synonyms to say experience and reality. This experience, aware, because we are aware, is a space where what we call the world appear. What is the world? What is in terms of our direct experience, what is what we call the world, the external world? It is sounds, colors, tactile sensations, smells, and so on. It's a perceiving activity, it's a perceptions. And where do perception appear? In experience. The entire world appears in experience. What we call body is made of bodily sensations that appear in experience. What we call mind is made of thoughts, memories, images that appear in awareness as well. And so we find a very strange thing, that there are people who try to reach an extra body, outside the body experience, and we always our experience is outside the body, because it is the body that appears in awareness and not awareness in the body. And when we begin to discover all these things, we can have a direct taste of what means to be identified with the field of awareness where everything appears. Some people call it cosmic awareness, but this name is a little bit esoteric. It's just, if you just for a moment, instead of putting your attention on the single perceptions that you have, just do a little step back. You can sense that you are the aware space where everything appears. There is there is a but. So one can say, wow, I was identified only with this body and this mind. Now I discover that I am identified with a cosmic consciousness, with a field of awareness that is boundless, where all reality appears. And maybe someone misunderstands this as a liberation. While it is something that we always experience, even if we don't realize it. But there is a problem here. The problem is identification. Before, we were identified with awareness and with only the body and the mind. After this, we are identified with the field of awareness, but we are still identified with something. And where there is identification, there is a center. And where there is a center, the ego center, there is a prison. We are not yet free of ourselves if we are identified with the field of awareness. And this is a very simple reason that even the field of awareness is just a concept we have, is not what is. It's not whatever it is a concept. And when we realize that, we try to reach that. We try to know, to understand that. And so we find ourselves in the same position of a dream. Imagine that you are dreaming and you are the main character of the dream, of course, that usually is the same as the person who is dreaming, no? So, in reality, you are just sleeping in your bed. The dream appears, and the stuff of the dream, of course, is your consciousness. Your consciousness is all the dream. Is all the mountains, is all the fields, is the cars, is the bad and good guys, is everything in the dream. All the dream is made out of your consciousness, the consciousness of the dreamer. But a magic happens in the dream because at some point there is a illusory identification of the dreamer's awareness with the main character of the dream. And you think that you are only that person in the dream, not the rest of the dream. And all the rest of the dream, seen through the eyes of the main character, seems outside you, made of matter. And so you are only that body, that mind, that is just a character of the dream. Wandering through the dream, this character meets another one, a person, a man, a woman, And that other person, that is just made of the consciousness of the dreamer, tells you this, says, you must realize that all this is just a dream and is made of just one consciousness, one awareness. You think that you are conscious, and you think that I too am conscious, but we both are not conscious, don't have our awareness. We are just one awareness, that is the awareness of the dreamer. When one arrives at that point, maybe is the situation when someone begins to listen to the communications about non-duality and find someone maybe here that is saying this. If the main character at that point says, oh, maybe you are right, but now how can I reach this overall awareness? How can I become this overall awareness? Can you realize the illusion that is behind this question? You cannot become it because you already are it. So, it's a play of concepts. It's a play that's a wonderful game. It's just an expression of the dream, an expression of the consciousness, an expression of whatever it is. So it's not bad, it's not good, but it's a play of consciousness. And when we speak about, when we use words, to communicate, of course we use concepts, but these concepts are like the fisherman net. The fisherman net can catch only fishes that are bigger than its holes. The smaller fishes just it can't get them. You can do a new net with the smaller holes, but a net can never catch the water. Our net of of words, our net of concepts, can only bring to some sense, which is not a concept, to some sense that this net of concepts is crossed and sustained by a sort of water that can never be caught by it, can never be understood by it. So we usually live in a description, conceptual description of reality that we misunderstand as reality itself. What happens? What happens when every concept, every idea about who am I collapses? Even the idea of awareness, even the idea of the field of awareness, and every idea about who I am totally collapses. What happens when every idea about reality, even the idea of non-duality, totally collapses? It's not a process. it's a timeless explosion of wonder that blows away everything, and what remains is a wild, free, spontaneous, and utterly unknowable aliveness in the middle of the unknown. And this aliveness is not far away, it's just the aliveness that expresses through our concepts, through our words, through our silence. Is this. This aliveness is unknowable. It's not an object that the mind can grasp. It's what we really and truly are. And there is no need to reach it, no need to practice a long path from the known to the unknown, because even the known is a mask of the known.